I can only imagine the money that's just been lost in parlays thanks to this match. Cabo Verde's goalkeeper, Vozinha, had about 50,000 followers on Instagram before this match. He walked off the pitch with not only a Man of the Match trophy, but 2.2 million followers. That's at the time of recording though. This number is almost certain to be a lot bigger by the time you watch this video. 2.2 million is over 4 times the population of Cabo Verde. The stadium that they played in could fit 14% of Cabo Verde's population in it. And yet, in their first ever match in a World Cup, Cabo Verde managed to hold Europe's best team and the outright favorites to win the 2026 World Cup to a draw. This is truly the magic of the World Cup. Hello everyone, hope you're doing well, welcome back. I don't think that we all realize the gravity of the result that we just witnessed. Curaçao made their debut in the World Cup against Germany last night and they fell to a 7-1 spanking. The entirety of Brazil shed a tear after that result because they had someone to trauma bond with. Even though I thought that Curaçao played really well for at least the first 30 minutes or so, but after that, you know, they were overwhelmed, and there was absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, there's everything to be proud of, regardless of the result. Even still, that was supposed to happen to Cabo Verde in this game against Spain. This was not how the game was supposed to end. It was not supposed to end in Cabo Verde technically being undefeated in all of World Cup history. For now, at least. So let's talk about the match, shall we? Also subscribe if you haven't. We're almost at 400k and what a day that will be. Cabo Verde is a solid football team. In 2023, they had a really good run to the AFCON quarterfinals, and I remember that match they played South Africa. They lost on penalties, but throughout that tournament, they showed discipline and that they were able to really stick to a plan and get it done. But doing it on that stage and then doing it here are two very different things. And yes, Spain were playing their B side, more or less, but let's be real. When you compare the two sides that played against each other in this match, on Spain's side, you've got hundreds of millions in player value. The same can't be said about their opposition. We all knew how the game was going to go. Let's be real over here. Spain took 27 shots to Cabo Verde's 6. Spain had 74% possession. Cabo Verde were pretty much just trying to hold on the entire time, but the way that they held on was just so impressive. By the way, Cabo Verde only committed 1 foul throughout the entire match. Now, let that sink in for a bit. If you watched it and you saw how much they were under the cosh, you know how impressive that is. And we come back to the notes about Spain playing their B side over here. There really just wasn't much creativity from them. There was one ball that they tried to play quite a lot in the first half, where whether it was Pedri or Rodri lobbing it over to the left-hand side for Cucurella to then cut it back inside for somebody to latch onto, but that person never came, or at the very least they were always denied. Even still, throughout the entire game, I was just thinking to myself that it only takes one moment to undo this incredible defense and the heads will just drop. I was waiting for that moment for Spain pretty much the entire game, and it just never came. Around the 67th minute or so, the second hydration break, which is just a very strange concept because, by the way, the stadium that they were playing in is air conditioned, and also I checked the weather. It was about 25 degrees in Atlanta, so regardless, air conditioned, so it doesn't really mean anything. I'm sure everyone has an opinion on this, but in any case, I was thinking to myself around that time that De La Fuente really needs to bring on the A team, you know, bring someone else to come in here because I feel like they just took these points for granted. In a World Cup match in a group stage where you only have 3 opportunities, they thought this was going to be a wrap. To be fair, I think everyone did, but that's when he brought on Yamal, Williams, Olmo, Marino, the whole lot. You know, I said before this tournament in my predictions video, and I don't think that this is a hot take whatsoever. A lot of people share this opinion. I wasn't entirely convinced of Spain's attack going into this competition, and that's not because they aren't a fantastic crop of players. Everyone knows that they are. It's because a lot of them, mainly Yamal and Nico Williams, the ones that make things happen and did so 2 years ago at that Euro, came into this competition injured. So there was no telling what condition they were going to be in coming in. And that probably played a factor into why both of those players were benched in this game. Either that, or perhaps De La Fuente underestimated his opposition because neither Olmo nor Marino started this game. Marino also, by the way, was injured going into this competition, so the point remains. Either way, Spain really paid for it because, as expected, they don't have anyone that is nearly as good and can play on the wide areas or in attack. And Cabo Verde came very close to stealing it at the very end. Their only shot on target came in the 91st minute. It was a header that if it went either side of Unai Simon, then we're looking at a completely different result right now with a completely different set of headlines. But alas, the football gods, they gave us quite a bit by giving us this upset, but they didn't want to push it that far, and I understand why. I get it. We already got a pretty big upset. We can't be asking for even more. Player of the match, Vozinha. 7 saves, an unbelievable generational performance. This is undoubtedly the best performance that anybody who's ever worn his country's colors has ever had. And I wouldn't be surprised if that remains a fact in perpetuity. He really had no business making some of the saves that he did. I had a really hard time picking out a worst performer from this Cabo Verde team because the game plan, it was clear. Of course, if you look at all the stats sites and everything, you're going to see poor performances from the majority of these players because they didn't do very much in attack. Even when the attackers or anyone that was breaking forward in attack was on the break, they didn't really have the quality to find each other and actually put things together, but I struggle to think that that's actually a problem that they'll be upset about. Their striker, Dylan Livramento, kept shooting at the halfway point. I guess he was trying to catch Unai Simon out, except Unai Simon wasn't really that far off his line in any of the times that he tried to catch him out. And my interpretation of this is just that he didn't really want to venture too far out of his own half because his job as a striker in this game was not to strike. Spain, on the other hand, for all their possession, for all their household names, they just couldn't really get the better of this team. And there really is something about a World Cup where you can watch a group of players whose names you don't even know manage to get the upper hand on a group of superstars. And that's exactly what happened here. Pedri couldn't have his way. Rodri couldn't have his way. Fabian Ruiz kept blasting the ball over the bar. Couldn't have his way either. Mikel Oyarzabal, I was just reading just now. For the first 30 minutes in the game, this crazy stat, first 30 minutes of the game, he is the first player since 1966 to not have a touch of the ball. Spain had 74% possession over the whole game. How is this possible? I'm just gonna assume this is true because they made a cool looking graphic about it. But I do recall him getting on the ball in the second half, so perhaps I just wasn't paying attention in the first. Gavi had a very strange game. I don't really know where to place him, if I'm honest with you. He worked really hard. He won the ball back quite a bit. He was very industrious and, didn't stop running. But he's not a winger. He's also not a 9, yet he wears the number. Odd one. This is a really bad 2 points drop from Spain. They really should have closed this game out. And as I'm recording this game, I'm also on this screen watching Saudi Arabia beat Uruguay, or they're beating Uruguay at the moment 1-0. So let's see how the game ends. You'll know by this point when this video comes out. So everybody who predicted that Spain and Uruguay were going to top the group, that very well still might happen, but it's the World Cup, everyone. It is entirely possible that Cabo Verde escaped this group. It's a hell of a lot more likely than it was yesterday, let's put it that way. A great game of football from Cabo Verde at the end of the day. They were going up against giants, and they may not be giant killers per se, but they're the closest thing to it. So some quick notes on some other things that have happened in this tournament. I haven't watched every game so far because that would be suicide. I'm already sleep deprived as it is. But number 1, Netherlands versus Japan. I thought that was quite possibly the game of the tournament so far. If you were to combine the second half of that game with the first half of the Brazil versus Morocco game, you're probably looking at a really cracking football match. Now, what I found so interesting about this game was 2-2. Every time the Netherlands took the lead, Ronald Koeman just decided to allow Japan back into it. It was the strangest thing to see when they were out of possession and being attacked on. They already had Frenkie de Jong going into the back line and making it a 5 at the back. But then Koeman goes ahead and brings even more defenders on and takes off the midfielders that were affording him that control. And even more ironically, a lot of people were saying that this game would be decided by height at the end of the day, which is something that looked to be the case when Virgil van Dijk headed the first goal in. Great goal, heads it right back where it came from. But at the end of the game, it was not only a header, but it was a header where Virgil van Dijk, again, probably the Dutchie with the best aerial prowess, did not time or position his jump better than a Japanese player. Very entertaining match. It's just all very peculiar, isn't it? Second thing, Tunisia fired their head coach after one game. Granted, the game was a 5-1 loss, which isn't ideal. Does Tunisia know that they still have 2 more games left? What's even stranger about this is that this isn't even the first time that Tunisia have fired their head coach while a group stage is still ongoing. They did this in 1998. The more you know. Anyway, that's all for me today. I will be live for Senegal versus France. I'm very excited for that one. Subscribe if you haven't. Watch along with me if you want to. If you don't, all good. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.